Hey everyone, Joe here. Today I'm reviewing the Ugee UT3 Android tablet with a massive 14.25-inch display. First of all, disclaimer, this is a review unit provided by Ugee, and in this video I'll just present to you my findings so that you can decide whether this is worth the money. I cannot remember the price of this tablet, so I'll just list them on the display for you. Alright, let's talk about the bottom line. Now, the drawing performance of this tablet is not as good compared to the smaller Ugee UT2. There is diagonal line wobble issues, which you cannot see here because you usually see that with smooth lines. With textured lines, you don't actually see the problem that obviously. But if you switch over to using a smooth line, such as this, diagonal line wobble and jitter may also vary depending on the app you use. So this is Infinite Painter, and this is MIDI Bang. So the diagonal line, as you can see, is not that straight. So when drawing, you will see the diagonal line wobble affect, well, diagonal lines. And this obviously will affect accuracy of your drawing. This pen supports tilt, but the performance with tilt sensitivity will vary depending on the app you use. So here you can see with this app Concepts, sometimes tilt works, sometimes it doesn't, and here it works and here it doesn't work. If I switch to using Sketchbook, let me undo, yeah. This is vertical, this is tilt, vertical, tilt, and vertical and tilt. It works fine. You get the MediaTek Helio G99 processor with this tablet, and that's not the latest processor, nor is it the most powerful processor, but for multitasking, for drawing purposes, you can expect smooth performance, no problem. So one main selling point of this tablet obviously is the huge display size. So you get plenty of space to work with for drawing, and you can use split screen mode really well because this display is huge. So you can have an almost 10-inch size for each app, and if you want to use this tablet as an external wireless display, this is a 14.25-inch external wireless display. Palm rejection unfortunately doesn't work that well. So when you place the palm on the display, sometimes the first line may not appear, or sometimes when you place the palm on the display, it may undo, and when it does, it's really irritating because it means you have to redo or redraw again. And palm rejection really is not great, so you may have to use the artist glove included if you really want to minimize issues with palm rejection. Another thing that affects drawing experience is latency. So this pen and the tablet has noticeably more latency compared to other tablets that I have tested. You know what, let me just show you. Let me switch to this brush here. So as I draw, you can see the line trying to catch up with the pen tip. Infinite Painter is not too bad, but for some other apps, that latency gap is actually kind of big. This matte glass surface is wonderful to work on. You get that tactile drawing experience, and the pen tip is not that slippery on the surface, and my sweaty palms doesn't stick to the surface, which is great. And the anti-glare actually works quite well, and the display is actually bright enough to go through the diffuse reflection as long as you're not working under direct sunlight. Since this display is using matte glass, it is very unlikely for the plastic pen tip to scratch the glass. For battery life, I was able to get around 5.5 hours with the display at maximum brightness. So if you are using the display below maximum brightness, you can get 6, 7, 8 hours of use. So overall drawing experience is affected by diagonal line wobble and palm rejection not working that well. So for drawing purposes, you will probably have to work around those limitations. And for some reason, the Ugee UT3, which is the small tablet, it actually has better diagonal line performance compared to this bigger tablet. So that's the bottom line, and now let's take a look at the items included with the purchase. This is the packaging box, and the packaging art looks really nice. Let's see what we have on the back, and we have the specifications. You can pause this video to look at the specifications, but I will also go through them as I go through the review. Inside the big box, there are two smaller boxes. So this one holds the flip case, and this one holds the tablet, which I have already taken out. So let me just show you the accessories included. There is one artist glove, user manual, warranty card. The tablet comes with 1 year warranty. This is a USB-C to USB-C charging cable. This is a 32-watt charger with USB-C port, a pen nib remover, and one replacement pen nib. This is the included flip case, which can get dirty quite easily. This interior is some sort of rubberized texture, and there are 4 lines that run across the flip case. This is probably some PU leather material, and that's the Ugee logo. So this is the full, and this is the hard case, but it's not that hard. When you have the tablet in the case, it's not too bad, but when you take out the tablet, you can see this is quite flimsy because this part here is kind of small, and they want to cut out this thing here to reduce the weight of the case. That's the camera cutout, and this is also PU leather. So let's have the tablet in the case. So this case actually does not provide full protection on all sides because, as you can see, this side is exposed and the top and bottom are exposed as well. And there are 2 feet here, so there is some empty space here where you can actually put your pen. And this pen will snap magnetically to the tablet, but this is not going to charge the pen, and the magnets are not that strong. But anyway, when you close the case, there is no way the pen will dislodge. So if you want to prop up the tablet, you can just lift this up and use one of the 3 straps here and just place your tablet like this. And because this is rubberized, it is very difficult for the tablet to just slip forward like this. This is not a case where you can prop up the tablet for drawing at a comfortable angle. So if you want to prop up the tablet for drawing, I recommend you get a tablet stand or a laptop stand. And the tablet stand that I recommend is the Pablo PR100, which has over 2,000 reviews on Amazon, and I have 2 of these myself. And the link to where you can find this is in the video description below. One thing that's not included is the SIM ejection tool because this tablet does not support micro SD card and SIM card. This is the Ugee U Pencil, and this design is different from the pen that's included with the Ugee UT3 tablet. So the differences are this pen has two side buttons which are customizable, but there is no eraser at the back. And for this pen, there are no side buttons, but there is an eraser at the back. Now both pens are interchangeable, so you can use either pen on either tablet. This pen is powered by an internal battery that is rated to last for 130 hours. And charging is through this USB-C port here. This pen has to be powered on before you can use it, and that's the power light indicator. Build quality for the pen is quite solid, and I like the matte textured surface. This pen does provide a good grip, and the pen tip has minimal movement when in contact with the drawing surface. And if your fingernail is long enough, you can actually just pull out the pen nib to replace it if you need to replace it in the future. And now let's take a look at the design of this 14.25-inch tablet, which is huge. So this display is almost as big as this piece of A4 paper, so you will get a lot of space to work with for drawing. I love the rounded corners. Even the corners for the LCD are rounded off. The bezels are thin enough and they are uniform on four sides. There is a 13 megapixel camera here and some sensors here. This tablet does not have fingerprint unlock, but at least there is face unlock, which works quite fast. There is auto brightness, and thankfully it works well here with this UT3 tablet, but auto brightness did not work as well on the smaller UT2 tablet. Here are the buttons for power and volume, and along this side you can also find this display mode button. When you press the display button, you can choose between three modes: regular, color paper, and ink paper. So if I choose ink paper, you will see this display will lose the colors, and now it's a black and white grayscale display, and you also lose the wallpaper. So let me open up this comic, and you can see this is black and white comic, and this is not exactly e-paper because this is still an LCD, so there is backlight, but you get the matte textured surface, so the reading experience is actually pretty good. So this is without colors, and the contrast actually looks pretty good as well. So if we switch over to color paper mode, let's enter, and we have color back as well. So this is trying to simulate the e-paper with color, so the colors are not as saturated. You can see the colors are actually more subtle. Let's switch over to the regular mode again, and you can see the difference. So now it's going to bring back the saturation for the colors. Notice the red is now more vibrant, and all the colors are now more vibrant. So this huge display is great for reading comics. I mean, you can display 2 pages like this in landscape orientation, or if you want to use the tablet in portrait orientation, you get a big page. At the bottom, there is nothing. So this tablet does not support micro SD or SIM card. And here at the other bottom, you get 2 speakers and another 2 speakers at the top, so you get stereo effect. The volume is loud, but audio quality sounds hollow, which is to be expected. This is the USB-C charging port. This port cannot output video. This tablet is quite thin at 7mm, and the weight is 760 grams, which for a tablet this size is reasonable. This is the back that's made with metal, and the overall build quality of this tablet is really solid. So that's the 8 megapixel camera with flashlight, and there is some texture on the side. So this camera bump is quite big, but it's not going to matter as long as the tablet is in the case. Let's take a closer look at this huge display. So this is 14.25 inches and the resolution is 2400 by 1600, and I don't really see pixelation from one arm's distance away. The visuals look sharp to me. Color support for this tablet or the display is said to be around 72% NTSC, which translates to around 100% sRGB, and from what I can see, the colors do look vibrant. Since this is an LCD display, there is actually the LCD or IPS glow that I can see, but it's not really an issue. The visuals look really good. Now note that this is 3:2 aspect ratio, so when you're watching movies, there will be black bars at the top and bottom. You may notice some gradient or shadow at the top, and that's due to the user interface, because if I open this photo, you can see there is no gradient. And if I open this comic, there is also no gradient. So this display is currently running at maximum brightness right now. The advertised brightness is 400 nits. However, in the real world, it's usually about 20% less, so we are probably looking at around 300 nits or lower brightness. Having said that, this brightness is actually still high enough for the colors and for the visuals to go through the diffused reflection. And this is how reflections look on a glossy display. So the anti-glare for this matte glass works really well. This is not a screen protector, this is matte glass. All matte textured surfaces will introduce some grain, color noise or shimmering effect. And on this tablet, I am very happy to say that you don't really get much of that. So the visual quality is still pretty good, and as you can see, the sharpness is really good. Now if you look really close, yes, you can see pixels, but from one arm's distance away, this is looking great. Huge displays have several advantages over smaller displays. So first advantage is, if you want to use this as a wireless external display, this is essentially a 14.25-inch portable external wireless display. So you can use this with the Super Display app and connect this to another computer and you get an external display. Another advantage is if you want to use split screen mode. Let me just show you. So let me just split the screen right now and call up another app. So now I have two apps side by side, and you can see the size for each app is still big. So this is probably around 10 inches. So this display is great for split screen mode, and you can still adjust the split screen. Oh, did I mention that I like the 3:2 aspect ratio because it's very usable in both landscape and portrait orientation. So even in portrait orientation, you can actually display like web pages in desktop mode and retain most of the layout. Another advantage of a big display is you can use drawing apps that have lots of user interface elements such as Krita and Clip Studio. So you can have the toolbars by the side, palettes on the left and right side, and still get a good amount of space left over to work with for drawing. This display is laminated, so when you're writing or drawing, there is almost no gap between the line and the pen tip. This tablet has more latency than I expect. So here you can see the line trying to catch up with the pen tip, and the latency gap is kind of big. So if you are writing, you can definitely feel the latency, but you can still write. For drawing purposes, usually we are not drawing as fast as we write, so I guess it's okay, but even so, you will still feel the latency because the latency for this tablet really is more than what I have expected. I mean, you can still draw with that tablet, sure. It's just that there is more than the usual amount of latency. And now let's talk about performance. So this tablet comes with 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, but in the real world you only get about 216 gigabytes of storage. And the processor is the MediaTek 8781 processor, which is quite similar to the MediaTek Helio G99. So this is how fast apps can load, which is quite fast, and files can load pretty quickly. Anyway, the files that I create do not have many layers. So overall performance, I would say, is quite smooth, but it's definitely not as responsive compared to more expensive tablet. And by responsive, I mean when I swipe up, this is fast enough. If I open an app, I can feel like apps usually open in split second with more expensive tablets, but here the apps open up smoothly, but you don't get that instantaneous responsiveness. So that's the main difference here. But otherwise, I mean, everything looks smooth enough for me. And yes, you can play some games, but don't expect to play graphics intensive games at the highest resolution or with maximum visual quality. So overall, I would say the performance you can get with this tablet is smooth enough. So drawing apps will still run very smoothly. The only area where you will notice the performance is with latency. This tablet is running on Android 14 with Ugee's user interface on top of that, and this processor that the tablet is using is indeed the Helio G99. So there aren't many features here, so if you want more features, you can always install your own launcher to get more features. So one of the features that I've showed you earlier is the display mode, and there are actually more display adjustments here under Next Vision, which you can find in the settings. There is also this software button here, so when you tap that, there are all these pop-up shortcuts which you can customize or you can add more, and if you don't like this, you can disable it. So you can remove that floating button by tapping here, or you can move that floating button anywhere else. So this is also the place where you can customize the two side buttons. And whether or not you can customize the buttons with the drawing apps you use will really depend on the drawing app you use. Let's do the slow diagonal line test. So this is how thick the line really is, and when I draw with minimal pressure, slowly, I can see jitter and wobble. Yep, it's actually quite obvious to me. Initial activation force is actually okay. So I can still draw the thin line with a thick brush selected, but as you can see, the diagonal line wobble and jitter is definitely there. So this is going to affect pen accuracy, and because of this tablet is definitely not suitable for creating professional art. And also, as mentioned earlier, there is the latency, so the user experience is not ideal. Next, let's look at how lines taper, and this is good. This is actually very good because we can see the line starts thinner, becomes thicker, and tapers smoothly and sharply. So this is very natural. Next, let's look at line transition from thin to thick. And this is also a diagonal line. So you can see diagonal line wobble here. Okay, this is alright, but it's not the best performance because earlier you can see I was able to draw this very thin line. So as I try to draw the thin line after drawing the thick line, it's difficult. For pens that are very sensitive, you can draw extremely thin lines easily after drawing the thick lines, but I cannot do that with this pen. So this pen is not as sensitive compared to other pens. The tablet does not provide adjustment for pressure sensitivity, so if you need to adjust the pressure sensitivity, you have to rely on your drawing app. Next, we'll see whether we can maintain consistent line width by maintaining consistent pressure. And once again, this is also a diagonal line, so there is also diagonal line wobble here. And line consistency is alright. Dots. By the way, as the pen is close to the display, you can see this hovering cursor. That cursor can be disabled if you want to under advanced features. So now you don't see the cursor anymore, and now you can see the cursor. The last test is for cursor misalignment. So I will draw separate lines and oops, notice the accidental undo. So palm rejection doesn't work perfectly on this tablet. Sometimes notice that undo again. So sometimes it will undo because it doesn't know that when you place your palm, it's actually your palm, so sometimes it may undo, and when it undoes, it's very annoying because you have to redraw again or redo. Yeah, so palm rejection is not perfect, and if you want to get perfect palm rejection, you may have to use or wear the included artist glove. So this is the cursor misalignment test, and I am able to join the lines without leaving gaps and without the lines overshooting. So all the lines are closed up properly, except for this part here where I made a mistake. This is a mistake. This is not due to cursor misalignment. I like the tapered sides, which allows the pen to tilt low and keep the pen tip in contact with the drawing surface, because this pen does support tilt. Performance of tilt sensitivity will vary depending on the app you use, and this app is Concept, so now the pen is vertical, and if I tilt pen, you can see sometimes tilt works, sometimes it doesn't. This app is Sketchbook, which also supports tilt. So this is vertical, and we have tilt, vertical, tilt, vertical, and you can see it works properly with this app, and the transition from from thin to the tilt broad stroke is quite smooth, and the transition back is also smooth. So tilt works fine with this app, and this app is Infinite Painter, which also supports tilt. That's the pressure line, and let's tilt. No, tilt doesn't work. I mean, it does work, but it doesn't work consistently. By the way, the broad strokes should be much wider and noticeably thicker compared to the pressure strokes. So, okay, now it works fine, but the performance is not consistent. Yeah, so now you can see it doesn't work, and here it also doesn't work. It shouldn't be so pale. There should be more ink and the strokes should be much wider. And now let's talk about drawing experience. Because there are issues with diagonal line wobble, I will want to draw something with many diagonal lines. So let me draw maybe the top of this office building. And notice the accidental undo. So palm rejection is definitely an issue. And also sometimes when I place my palm down and draw a line, the first line may not appear. Palm down, line. Okay, now palm down, line. Okay, now it works fine. Okay, let's have another diagonal line here. You can see there is definitely slight wobble. This one looks straight enough. Oops, another undo there. It's not that I want to talk so much about palm rejection, but the thing is, happened again. It's just that it happens quite often. Happened again. You know what? If I turn off the double finger undo, which I can do so with this app, to undo, I will have to use the shortcut buttons here. Then I will have to get used to this new workflow, which I can certainly get used to if I spend enough time. But the thing is, palm rejection doesn't work that well. Yeah, that is the fact here. Yeah. Notice that again. Yeah, it is incredibly irritating. You know what? Let me just disable double finger undo. Yeah, so let me disable this. So now I don't have to talk about palm rejection anymore. Yeah. So now I can continue to draw this while I talk about other things. The matte textured surface is really nice to work on for drawing. Oh, another issue is sometimes when you place the palm down, the zoom may change slightly, again due to palm rejection not working that well. Notice that? Yeah. So let's draw some additional diagonal lines just to test. Okay, you can see here this diagonal line, it looks pretty straight. So it's not all bad. Sometimes the diagonal lines are straight, as long as you draw them fast enough. So let's draw another diagonal line here. It looks okay. Let's maybe have a door here. Looks fine. A window here, maybe another window here. See this long diagonal line? It looks fine. And this looks fine as well. Let's have a little box here. And this box looks fine. By the way, this is how thick the brush is. So the initial activation force, okay, now if I double tap, I cannot undo. I have to use the shortcut. I have to remember to use the shortcut buttons here. Initial activation force of this pen is actually low enough, but it's not that low. Having said that, you can still draw something like this with very thin lines while using a very thick brush. So if you want to, for example, color big areas, you can press down hard to get the pressure to help you color big areas with the broad strokes. And if you want to draw thin lines, you don't have to change the brush size here manually. You can just draw with, oops, what's this color? draw with minimal pressure just to get the thinner lines. So pressure sensitivity actually works well enough. It's just that tilt sensitivity and palm projection, they do not work consistently. And this size, this almost A4 size canvas is great to work with. You can see your artwork like so big, and it is definitely quite satisfying to be able to see your artworks so big. Okay, notice this line here, this diagonal line, it is quite straight. This diagonal line is straight, this is straight enough. Let's draw a very slow diagonal line just to test. This is actually straight enough. Yeah, or maybe it's the brush that I am using. Let me switch to a different brush. Let's switch to pen, which is a smooth brush. So far I have been using a textured brush. So now let's switch to using a smooth brush. Looks fine, but I need to reduce the brush size. So this is a diagonal line. Yeah, I can see some jitter with this brush. Let's draw diagonal lines here. Yes, there is jitter, and you can see the jitter. This is my normal drawing speed. Okay, let's switch over to the Sumi textured brush again. Okay, it seems like the texture is trying to hide the jitter. So for this brush, okay, I can see some jitter definitely. Yeah, so if I draw a bit faster, then yeah, the lines will be straighter. Next, we have concepts. So as I draw this rectangle, you can see the diagonal line wobble. So this is obviously, oops, that is another undo because this app supports double finger undo. I can see some diagonal line. This line is not perfectly straight. And this line is not perfectly straight either. Diagonal lines here, this looks okay. Sometimes the lines look straighter, sometimes you get jitter. The performance is not that consistent. And now I'm using Infinite Painter with the dry inker brush. Let's zoom in and have a closer look. So this is tilt brush, which is working, but it doesn't work consistently. Okay, so sometimes when you want it to work, it doesn't work, so the lines will notice that accidental undo. So the lines will not appear exactly the way you expect, which can be quite irritating. Notice how the line tapers. It tapers quite well here with this app. So let's see how thick this brush is. Okay, this is quite thick. If you want to get a nicer tapered stroke, you can use pressure and then reduce the pressure to get the nicer tapered strokes. Because some apps actually will not give you that nice tapered stroke if you draw quick like this. For drawing organic subjects where there are many curves, you don't really see the diagonal line issue. So if I tilt, notice if I tilt the pen like this and draw with light pressure, I can actually get this textured look, but it's not, but the performance is not predictable. So this tablet has been on for more than 2 hours now at maximum brightness, and this is not that hot. It's warm, yes, but it's not as hot compared to the smaller Ugee UT3, which, if I'm not wrong, actually has higher brightness, which is probably why the tablet is hotter. The battery capacity of this tablet is 10,000 milliamp hours, and I've been using this for almost 2.5 hours now, and the battery life dropped 44%. So based on my calculations, you can get around 5.5 hours of battery life if you're using this display at maximum brightness. So if you are using this at lower brightness, you can get maybe 6, 7 or 8 hours of use. Alright, to conclude, overall performance of this tablet is smooth, and this huge display is wonderful to work with. I love the matte textured glass that provides that tactile drawing experience. Drawing experience is not ideal because of diagonal line, wobble and jitter, and also palm rejection doesn't work that well. So drawing experience hopefully could be improved with future models of the tablet and pen, and the smaller UT2 tablet has better drawing performance than this. So yeah, if you guys are interested to buy this tablet, consider using the affiliate links that I have for you in the video description below to support my YouTube channel and the work that I do here. I get to earn some commission for each sale, but at no extra cost to you. Right, thanks for watching, and if you have other questions regarding this tablet, let me know in the comment section below. See you guys in the next video. Bye.